I'm Fleur.
I'm Sarah Jane.
And I'm Ellie, and we are Hand to Health, three art psychotherapists.
Welcome today on World Mental Health Day. This is our podcast, The Spirit of Creative Entanglement.
And we are delighted to welcome Siri Arti today and have conversation with you, Siri. So I'll introduce you, and you have such a kind of a rich background. So Siri works as an energy and medicine practitioner, holistically integrating mind and body, as well as practicing somatic therapy. Siri has a rich and diverse background as a therapist, body worker, yoga trainer, and of course a nature lover, and which is an integral component to enrich Siri's practice. Siri has over 30 years of experience working with young people in education and wellness, and integrates yoga philosophy, biomedical and psychological approaches, along with energy work to her client-centered approach. And the three anchors of Siri's work are embodiment, empowerment, and education. And not least, Siri has also trained as a trauma-informed plant medicine integration practitioner. Welcome, Siri.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here with you three.
Anything else that you want to pop in there that I may have left out, or you want to, yeah?
No, that was already quite a lot.
And you brought an object with you today, did you, Siri? Like others. Do you mind showing us and seeing where that takes us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's my object.
Oh, wow.
It's specifically this part.
Okay.
I am particularly, I think fond is would be an understatement of how I feel about sacrums. It's, the sacred sacrum, although this is not a human one. I haven't managed to get hold of one of those yet, but I'm just really, really, I love bones and I love the sacrum most. And a dear friend found this and kept it for me. And he actually sends, I have a few sacrums. I think it's a powerful place of, anatomic alignment, but also energetic transmission of what goes through these holes and what moves through the body from the sacred sacrum. So this is my my object.
Amazing. And for those that are listening to this on Spotify and can't see it, can you describe a little bit about what your object looks like for them?
Yeah, it's so I'm holding a sacrum that's attached to 1, 2, 3 vertebrae. And I guess all my children often, when I find bones and they see them, they often get kind of grossed out because they're a bit manky, they've still got dried flesh on them and things like that. But I think they're just so beautiful to hold. Like I'm holding it at the back. The back of this is obviously an animal. I'm not sure. I think maybe a sheep, and holding it perfectly at the back. It fits perfectly between my thumb and my index finger. And when I hold this incredible set of bones, I can really feel my own sacrum and vertebra in my body. So it really helps me with my embodiment. So it's a little dirty. Sometimes they're a little smelly, and I love them a lot.
It's really beautiful, and I can just sort of sense through the screen almost just the energy of it. It's something really, really special, and I'm from every angle. Siri's just turning it around, and it's just absolutely. I've never seen anything like it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, I'm really curious about your story of how you've found this real passion, love, and interest in bones and sacrums. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that.
I think, I mean, what comes to mind is all the many hundreds of hours I've spent in cemeteries, morning, noon, and night, and how many bones I have found in those places. I think there's something about quiet places in nature and where nobody else likes to go, and things that get left behind by kind of nightlife, you know. So often you'll see something left behind by the animals who have been there the night before that we would never see. And you come across feathers or bones or remnants of life and now death. And I spent, not so much anymore, but I went through a very deep phase of just being really intrigued by how much life you can find in a cemetery, you know, through the process of death. So I have a dog who you saw earlier.
Yeah.
He accompanies me, you know, on these journeys and to quiet places. So yeah, it's probably mostly the last 10 years I've been really into bones and feathers, and things that are left behind by secret moments that we don't get to witness.
Love that. You mentioned also an energy through that part of a body that links, does it, to your work, your energetic medicine work? Or
yeah, I think so I'm, you know, when Flo was introducing me, I was thinking of how many of those words people just wouldn't understand. And even kind of energy medicine or energy healing. And I think for me, instead of identifying with one specific area, it would be really helpful to describe what kind of lens I look through, and my motivation is to integrate these different approaches, or, you know, so that my lens stays broad and integrated. And that's the word people don't really understand either much, integration. But so the energy work is part of a bigger lens. So I try and experience life through my own physical embodiment, my mind, you know, the psyche, and my energy, being vitality and breath, and, you know, and things that move that we can't see, and then the higher mind, intuition. And I'm always looking through this lens of holism. So when I see a bone and I have the sacrum back in my hand, because it's really easy to hold, it's like a wand, actually. You can feel the magic in this. When I think of a sacrum and the sacrum of my own body, and how much energy is coursing through that part of my body, especially because I just went for a walk in preparation for this conversation, the energy that I connected with through my feet, you know, from the earth, moving through my legs in kinetic energy, fed right into my own sacrum. And then that energy is moving up my spine and like really coursing through into my brain, physical kind of and mental, and then beyond, you know, out through the crown of my head and back into the universe. So I kind of, my motivation is always to be this living, breathing embodiment of all that is, be it energy, physicality, anatomy, thought, elemental nature, all of that. So yeah, it's
beautiful.
As I'm listening to you, Siri, there's something the words that come to my mind are quite powerful, quite spiritual, and very connected. There's something, you know, that I always felt that I needed to pause for a moment while I was listening to you, because I needed to sort of find a way to sort of not so much ground, but find that kind of connection. And I think a key word for you in your practice, like you say, is about embodiment, and how we can be very separate very quickly. Even what we're doing in the moment, how we can disconnect very quickly, even from our own bodies. You know, maybe our hands are doing something, but another part of our body we haven't registered with. So there's something around connection which just seems really important for what you've been talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, would you like me to speak to that?
Yes, please.
So I think the connection for me is a reconnection, and a remembering and a reintegration of self into the world, into other, and into the natural world. And I find it's an ongoing process and journey of discovery. And I think, on Mental Health Day today, I think the thing that stands out the most for me in my practice, and in my own experience of life, is disconnection. We wouldn't be here, or four of us therapists sitting in a conversation on Mental Health Day, if we were as a people connected. And so this connection is what I seek the most, reconnection to myself and each other in relationship, and then the natural world. These three kind of tiers are super important to me. And in my work and the lens I look through, the discovery is really to find, where is the disrepair? Where is the disconnect? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? Is it mental? Like, when did myself or my client get blown apart?
Yeah.
When did the fragmentation happen? And even if we can't find the origin story, because I'm not hugely, I don't over-identify with the origin of a situation. I'm much more interested in the present moment, presentation of how things arise. But really, I'm looking through this lens of, like, where is there a hole, a disconnect, and what is needed to repair so that a person can return to self. And this is the most intimate, personal, sacred journey, really. And yeah, to be able to what's that beautiful word of, like, not guiding, but it's almost like, get a sense of it. I can't think of the right word, but it's almost like if I can hold the space myself, as in a moment, being integrated and embodied, and also completely and utterly uncertain, then perhaps, the guiding back for another can actually happen. The return to self can happen.
It sounds like a lot of what we do therapy wise, but it sounds like therapy in the biofield. So it sounds like working with, bioresonance and the energetic field that the body holds. There's that wonderful work about the energetic biofield of a leaf, and you cut it off and take a part away, and then the image of the energy that leaf holds is still there. You still see the shape when you're taking an image of it. And it's kind of, I'm seeing your clients as kind of, you're removing the physical part and kind of seeing the energetic shape that they take, and kind of realizing what's shattered it, or what's there's an outline but there's nothing in there. I'm thinking of bioresonance as you talk. I don't know if that's what you work with.
Not so I don't really know what that is, but I get a sense of what it is from what you just said, Ellie. For me, it's more about integrating everything into the physical body. So the physical body is the container.
Right.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's never to be moved away from. It's about all of that is contained within.
So it's more noticing what's more integrating. which
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's all of that which we are, have been, and will be, actually is in the body in this moment.
Right. Yeah.
So the physical form is actually everything. And I was just walking earlier thinking how crazy that we disconnect from it when it is our home. And it is the most kind of sacred, manifestation of a person. So it's kind of calling the parts and layers like back into their rightful home, and tending to them one at a time, and not over identifying with one, or forgetting that we have it. Yeah.
Interesting how we also use the body in a way that we want to try and move, morph it and shape it in any sort of in the different ways that we can, whether it's something that we try and do around exercise or food, or even with aesthetics or whatever. We're always trying to sort of just the exterior, if you like, of the physical form. And what's just so important, and I think what really resonates with me, is that is purely what it is as a physical form. It's the inside that's really, really important. And I have this image of you, Siri, sort of just being really curious and wandering around the graveyards, but for me there's something really important that we don't really want to go to, and that's thinking about death and that whole life death kind of cycle. But that really, for me, that's I think about the sort of ancestral kind of lines. You had your bone that you've shown us as your object, and yes, that is a physical form, but there's something else that travels with it through the ages, through the years, and something about being in a graveyard, which is all of those souls, all of those bodies, all of that energy, if you like, it just, there's something very palpable for me right now, and yet at the same time I can't quite sort of, maybe it's not so tangible, I'm not quite sure what that is, but at the same time I know it's very important. So that's something perhaps that has to settle with me.
Well, I think that's interesting what you're bringing up there about death, because we're talking about the importance, Siri, that you find in the physical form, and the integration and the grounding of this matter that we know to be as our human form. And then we're talking about the death of that, the decay of that. So there is something difficult in that space, isn't there? If we're talking about the importance of being human, being on this earth at this time, and bringing in everything that we have experienced before. If time is linear, that'll be another great chat, but maybe time, if it is linear, let's say, we're bringing in everything that we've experienced and everything we're going to experience into this moment, it grounding in this physical for how important that is. And then we're talking about when it doesn't exist, or it's death. So I'm wondering if that's the energy.
I think that when I'm hearing you, Ellie, I'm thinking it's very yes, and it's so vast and so untangible and so mystical and hard to comprehend, and all of those difficult things. And it's part of the bigger picture. And also it all lives inside the body. And the grounding, I think, is a really interesting word. It's really, I think people are less grounded than ever. But I think the piece for me that's really important is this ability to, because when you were speaking of those vast things, I was just like really just out, and then the word grounding was like kind of back in, but only because I know how to do that. I know how to go really super vast, and I know how to come back into the moment. And I think what's super important and really difficult for the average person is what you were saying, Fleur, about this, like, I'm noticing this thing, I'm noticing this, like, there's something here. And it's the noticing what's going on in the body that is a lost a lost skill. And this is something that in my therapeutic practice, I have to teach this as a skill. The tracking sensations, noticing that there is actually a body, first of all, in the room, and then learning to understand like how that one of my clients was saying to me the other day, like, oh, I hate it when the therapist says, like, how do you feel? Because I haven't got a clue. Like, I literally, it's like in that moment, you just get blown, because it's so anxiety building to think about how you feel. So I think this noticing that there's a body here, I can come to there's so many steps to get to the point where you can say, yes, I can feel that there's something here for me. That I'm noticing a feeling, I'm noticing maybe some, a sensation or an emotion or a fear or an anticipation or an excitement. And that's the thing that's more interesting to me than the stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Because that's less tangible. And this is super important, what's here for me. When I'm walking at night in the graveyard, I'm tracking my sensations. I've got my kind of the neuroception is like sparking everything, I'm picking up signals the whole time. I'm translating them. I'm interpreting them. I'm listening to the sound my feet make on the ground. Obviously, I don't live like this 24/7, but I have the capacity because of decades of training. But the lack of that and the loss, where did we lose this? Why did we lose this? Is, I think, what's contributing to this like really this pull apart, this disconnection, this loss of self, and
that
comes back to the body.
Just thinking as you're talking about that, Siri, how this is so familiar for us in our therapy room, this disconnect that is felt, and one of the ways that we find, I find, and I think I probably speak for Fleur and Ellie as well, that we use to support that connection, the coming back to the body, are our art materials, things like clay, paints. These things are very useful and supportive in helping that connection start to be felt and the journey back to the body starting to happen. And I'm wondering, what sort of things do you use? What is helpful and supportive in your practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of my really good friends is an art therapist, and we often have these conversations around, like, she'll ask me, like, if you don't have the clay or the paints or the papers, or, like, and actually the tools, first of all, like, my tool is the body, not only the clients but mine. So this instrument here is tracking my client the whole time, which is very tricky because it means the impression of my client stays in my body, which I really I'm really trying to figure out the best way to disentangle from that. But somatic psychotherapy, my body is a measuring tool, an instrument. So I'm tracking as my client is talking and working with me. So that's one tool. And then also then we start working with all of these. So I was listening to your podcast on your backpack and for students, and I love this idea. I often talk about a backpack myself. And so I have a lot of evidence-based, heavily academic researched practices that I can take out of my backpack. I'm very less interested in the fact that they're evidenced and researched and academic. I'm much more interested in perceiving what is the right thing for the person. But I think one of my biggest, so that's a tool that this particular breath for this particular presentation, for this particular mental health condition, in this particular bespoke way in this moment with this client. So weaving all of those things together. But I have a pretty powerful tool that I work with initially with clients and then sporadically on and off. And that is, it's called the kosha. It's the 5 layers of being of a person. So it's a framework. And I am kind of besotted with this framework. I love it so much. I move with it all the time. I see through it. I work with it on many levels. But basically what it is it's an ancient Veda. It comes from the Vedas, which is very interesting because people always say that as a prefix, you know, it comes from the Vedas. But what are the Vedas? Nobody, you know, unless you study that, you wouldn't know. They're very ancient teachings that came from holy people, and how the Vedas came through in prose or song was through the transmission of hallucinogenics. So when I found this out in some deep research, I was like, that makes total sense. Because people talk about the chakras, but how the hell where did they come from? You know, there's no proof of them. So the koshas come from the Vedas, which would have been like a download from the cosmic, the universal kind of creation, using hallucinogenics or entheogenics to close down certain parts of the brain or the mind and access a much broader perspective. And these teachings would have been like literally like, you know, brought down, transmitted, channeled, and then expressed. And then, you know, the frameworks were created. So it's really, really probably 10,000 years old, and it's so relevant. And it's just to simplify the koshas. Every individual has a body. That individual has a soul. At the epicenter of the person is a soul. And then there's 5 layers that kind of hold the soul. There's the physical layer, the energetic layer, the mental layer, the wisdom layer, and the bliss layer. Bliss is, I don't know, I don't really vibe with that word. I use contentment. So the 5th one, and in the center is the soul. So that's one human with the 5 layers. And then another important part of this framework is, if you can visualize, so there are 4 of us here, we're each sitting in a body, we each have an individual soul with its own journey. Ellie, you were talking about that. Where did we come from? Yeah. So we each have that. So that's very individual. That's really, you know, this person-centered approach. We're connected with one person, and my person, my body, my energy, my breath, my mind, my higher mind, and then contentment. And then the other part is, if you zoom out and you imagine the 4 of us in our 4 bodies connecting here, and then everybody else in their bodies with their 5 layers, and then the universal consciousness is, so that link between me and the universal consciousness is the kosha model. Soul, the Atman, and Brahman, the universal consciousness, is always there, doesn't go anywhere, cannot be destroyed. So that is the framework I work with, and that's a huge tool. And we do a kosha assessment, we check in with all the layers, we see what's hindering, what's supporting, and then I map it, and then we'll check back in a couple of months later or weeks later even, and we start working with it, and I start teaching this language. So people become more than just, you know, the over-identification with that belief system that's stuck in cognitive rigidity. They become something that's living, breathing, organic, connected to something that's primal, that's sacred, that can't be destroyed.
Oh, amen.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
By now I use the word connected.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siri.
Yeah.
You just brought me whoosh
Yeah.
right down. That's it. So relational and connected, and yeah.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
Mm.
Because this is the magic, right? There's no separation.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's just it was a fragmentation, but there's the return. To be fragmented is an opportunity to return. And when we start touching into these layers, we remember. And then especially this kind of universal connect, and that, people don't understand that, but I have visuals, I have imagery, and I show them. I work online, I share my screen, I say, look, this is what it looks like. My daughter illustrated it for me. So we start kind of using that imagery. In the middle is a person with a big energy coming out of their chest, then the 5 layers. And then we start mapping it, and people come home to themselves, because and my goosebumps have maintained that they're still there, because it's like that is the return to the self.
Yeah.
We have often, haven't we, talked about coming home to ourselves,
Yeah.
and what that means. And I think you've just put it in such an eloquent sort of way to understand what coming home to ourselves really means. Yeah.
And I was thinking, where does this connect? I was understanding us and our soul, and then to hear you say, and then we're all connected through universal consciousness. And I thought, I'm someone that always ends up bigger and grounding. I'm out in space a lot, as Sarah Jane and Fleur know, and grounding is the hard bit. And I was thinking, quite naturally, okay, but what about and then we're all connected to that universal consciousness, and it cannot be broken. It's like, I feel emotional hearing it. It's like, yes, thank you, absolutely, this is true. And this is what we do, right, in our work, realigning that with people. Absolutely,
Ellie, and I love that. And also, like, the other thing that we're always connected to, and never ever ever, it can never go anywhere, is to the earth. So this is like the other piece, right? You can go as vast and as far and as universal as you want to, because that lives in every cell in your body. But what is below you are the roots and the mycelial network and the earth that is breathing with us. We cannot be anywhere else. Like, each one of us is sitting on a ground. Like, the ground never falls away from us until we get into our heads, and then we disappear. But the mind can always come back to the ground, and the earth never leaves us alone. It cannot. We cannot go anywhere. So the earth is super, super important in my relationship with it, through my bones, the bones and the stones. I speak about the bones and the stones. This is super important, because when we don't have that, when we lose that connection, it's really hard to come home.
Yeah. I'm getting more understanding of your bones. The importance of them now, of your object and that. And mycelium as well. We had a fantastic podcast on that, but I would like to delve a little bit deeper into that as well, in the sense of the psilocybin work, and actually coming home to yourself was something that came up on that podcast, and what that means for you, those, Siri, and in your work.
Which part? Psilocybin or the coming home to myself?
Psilocybin and the earth. As we're talking about that connection to earth, thinking it might join there, but I've completely just thought it might join there. And I'm asking you if that is actually the case.
Yeah, not definitively. I mean, happy to go there, but also just to say that I think for me, yes, I have a journey with mushrooms and psychedelic mushrooms. Specifically, my interest is in nootropic medicines, which are nervous system, brain and nervous system based, which is what psilocybin is. But for me, before we kind of step there, it's almost like the path is to nature first. So, and not to nature as external, it's to nature with ourselves. I think I don't understand how nature and me became separate.
Yeah.
And I'm hugely curious about like putting myself back into that, you know, and so that is like the more important than entheogens for me, and I don't know why this feels really important to like. What's more important to me is walking in nature and then orienting my physical body to the ground, standing by a tree, understanding my connection with the trees. Like I have talked to trees, I've heard them through the whisper of the leaves in the wind. I've heard songs, I've received messages. When I'm at such a loss, a creative project isn't working, and I've had that for years with one particular project, that's where I go. And I think so this replanting myself back into nature is that is like at the foreground of my interest, and humanity. Like what happened. So I spent a lot of years just like standing by trees and emulating them to get an idea of like, how does this translate in my anatomical, physiological body? Because I think the biggest gift in my academic studies was a deep dive into physiology, neuroscience, and anatomy. Like that's when everything started to make sense. That's when mental health made sense to me, was when I understood my nervous system, and standing in the woods with my feet on the ground by a tree, I started mapping like the roots, and I was like, are the roots beneath my feet? You know, no, they're not. They're in my body. Like our roots are so our mycelial network is actually inside of us. It's the nervous system. It's the vagus nerve. It's all the nerves moving through us. So I've done a lot of that kind of missioning, and deep diving into my body, and then my interrelatability with nature. And that took me to psilocybin. So that took me to the mushrooms, like, you know, lying on the wet autumnal earth and smelling the decay and doing deep journey work. I've been doing journey work, shamanic journey work, since I was 25, so 30 years, and then disappearing into the humus, you know, of like that smelling earth, and becoming one with that was the thing that sparked, maybe I should do some mushrooms. So that deep curiosity around, when did I get disconnected from this? You know, when did I put myself aside from it? Took me to mushrooms. And then that, So what would you like to know about my relationship with psilocybin?
Just the way you work with it with clients. I think that's beautiful anyway, just how you've explained how you got there, and I think that explains quite a lot to me, in the sense of now what you feel about working with something like this, and again, eloquently put, and I suppose just carrying that forward then to, what do you feel like having this extra? You've obviously got such a connection to earth anyway, such a groundedness somatically, and you know, even I'm taken to the moss as you describe, lying on the floor. You know, there's obviously a connection there. What then did working with psilocybin give you on top, or how did that proceed?
So my work with psilocybin is very much connected to nervous system work. So, you know, all of the trauma work with clients is directly working with the nervous system. And these medicines work directly with that. I mean, it's unbelievable. Even on a microdose of psilocybin or Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric medicine I've started working with, the plants speak through the language of sensation in your body. So psilocybin is what they call a non-specific amplifier, basically what that means is it'll go into your body, and it's not the same for everybody. It will amplify things, and mostly your sensations will be heightened, so you will feel more. So isn't that a wonderful thing for people who cannot feel anything? People with alexithymia, people who don't know how to track sensations, don't know that they have a body. So be able to ingest a plant, or it's not a plant, it's a mushroom, and then feel that there's a body, feel that the body has sensation, that it starts to speak through this incredible language of sensation. I'm tracking my own language of sensation right now. I'm on a microdose day, so it's a little heightened. So it offers people. I work with microdosing, not macro, which is, sub perceptive levels of tiny little bits of mushrooms. But it's still just like heightens, it amplifies something in the body. So if we add that kind of medicine when I add this into my practice and I work with people with microdosing, it does a lot of things, but the body comes back online, and people can drop in more easily. Anxiety can become managed. There's neuroplasticity, which means that whilst we're working on a particular theme, and you're working with the mushrooms, you're basically more alive. You're back online. You're more alive, and you can start tending to the parts that have become fragmented, and just slowly bringing them back home. It's no miracle cure, and I would always work with people on embodiment. And like, I wouldn't work with microdosing with people who don't know how to track sensations. Like, absolutely not. It means the disconnection between mind and body, and the over-identification of the mind needs some work and some support before we start adding a medicine into the mix that's going to amplify. So working with and this is important as well. Like, there's no two people the same. There's no two spinal curves that are the same. There's no two sacrums that are the same. And that means that when we work, when the mushrooms get into a person's body, it's going to be so unique to the person and so personal. And in a way, it just kind of, I think for me, it brings that person a little more into the room, and then the doors open and there's more access to that particular presentation and person in their journey.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at time. I have so many questions.
You lost track.
We have to do another one. As you're talking, I'm thinking about the safety of working with trauma and opening up these spaces. When we work with traumatic time, we have the beginning and the end of a session, and we can arc it, and we can go deeper with the artwork, and the artwork can stay with us, and we can hold it in that kind of way. However, if a client is leaving and doing a microdosing week or something weekly, I'm hearing that's when you kind of have to assess as a therapist or as someone working alongside their journey of people that are able to hold that work in the opening up that happens maybe outside of session. That's what I'm wondering, how you hold that with working.
So when I work with microdosing, they're generally 6 to 12 week containers. Right. There's an intake, there's an initial call to see whether it's appropriate. There's an intake form that, like a therapeutic intake form, same thing. We check all the medication for to see if it's still going to be okay for harm reduction. And then the container itself has a beginning, middle, and an end. And there's connection, there's communication, there's a framework. So the boundaries are very, very clear. And remember, this is not like, it's a microdose. No one's noticing that they're microdosing. It's not like you opening people up and then putting them into their life without the support. It's a misconception. Microdoses, you don't notice it. It's subperceptual. And it's there as a support, and it's completely harmless. It is the most harmless medicine in the chart of medicine, of substances, of drugs. The most harmless. So it's the way I work, I'm very boundaried with container work. We have a framework. There's a weekly check-in, so a weekly hour and a half session. And there's and I work with the koshas. So introduction, 5 layers of being. We land in the last layer, and then we complete, or we do it over 12 weeks. And then we meet every 2 weeks. So there's still a beginning, middle, and end. And we track all the whole time people are meeting their layers through the process, because I work through the framework of the koshas with microdosing as well.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear that integration of those 2 conversations we've just had, but the 5 layers of being, and then obviously working with psilocybin, and how that integrates together.
Yeah, the journey. And I'm really interested, Siri, your story is so interesting and fascinating, and I only just mentioned the time. I could sit here all day thinking about this with you and hearing you. And I'm curious about where your journey's taking you now, because I can really hear and feel this ongoing curiosity and movement forward with you, and along the way these really deep integral discoveries and understandings that you reach and then incorporate into your offerings, and so I'm just wondering about where you're moving towards, and what that is feeling like and looking like at the moment.
Gosh, yeah, I was going to say who knows, but I do know. So my kind of the clients who find me are more often than not clients who are at a complete loss, have become hopeless, and have perhaps been failed by the system, or the medical system just isn't able to help them. So they get kind of, in a way, written off, or they come to hit a wall with like, well, I've tried everything and nothing works. And so that seems to be like the people who find me. And what I'm really interested in is the value of my model, this holistic, very integrated, gentle and tender journey to self, and supported with the medicines, because I wouldn't move only into working with psychedelics, but what I've noticed over my 5-6 years of research and practice, and with clients and also with myself, is if we're thinking about just the physical body, the like neuropathic pain, fibromyalgia, traumatic brain injury, complex PTSD, like that's not only the body, but I'm these kind of presentations and diagnoses that are so life taking away, life sucking, that leave people completely on their knees. The medicine on a physiological level is a game changer. It should not be illegal. The neuroplastic properties of this medicine, the fact that it can give people pain relief, the fact that it can rewire the nervous system for pain, it can offer relief for neuropathy. I mean, I have quite a number of neuropathic patients, and living with acute pain 24/7, like actually it's super hard to comprehend, or even contemplate. these medicines can really, really be a game changer for people. So that is like something I'm really interested in, offering people physical relief so that they have a better quality of life. And that's something I'm really leaning into. Yeah. And kind of mixed in there is the deep connection with yourself and nature that happens as a default when you work with these psychedelic medicines is just profound, you know. It's just profound, and people come back online, come back to themselves, their relationships improve. So it's kind of like the reduction of pain through nervous system repair, literal repair, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, not repairing that, but preventing it. Like, this is where I'm excited. And so that means that where I'm going is I need to know more about the macro doses and bespoke doses. So, for example, people with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, neuropathy, what really works for them is microdose, 1 gram, or microdose for 3 months, and then you do a 3 gram or 2.5 gram. You don't have to go, you know, out of orbit. You don't have to do it here at 5 gram. But I'm really interested in pursuing that. So I'm actually going away for 3 months to do a much deeper dive into macrodose work.
Wow.
Because I just, it's really exciting, and I can feel my body just like tingling, and there's that anticipatory, you know, energy in me, just talking about that, because when I work with clients in pain, they touch my pain. When I work with clients who are dissociated, they really like touch my dissociation tendencies. Disconnection, they touch my disconnect. We are not ever disconnected. So I'm touching and feeling and moving with my clients. And if these medicines can offer respite from that kind of physical, emotional, spiritual pain, mental pain, then like I'm all for it. And I will continue to work in the underground because we're being forced to. So I started with this like act of rebellion of, you know, the conversation of, is it okay to talk about this? And it's actually essential. And many of us are forced to be working in the dark, in the underground, because it's illegal. And I won't subscribe to that. And I'm also not a clinician, and I don't really want to be. Yeah. So that kind of leaves me in a place of, I will continue learning and studying and refining my own relationship with this medicine and myself and nature, so that I can be of service to both the earth and the cosmos and the people.
And thank you for doing that. I think it's such, as a you know, from fellow human to fellow human, I just want to say thank you for the journey that you have been on and you continue to go on, because I think that it's what we need right now. And so thank you for for having that courage to continue it, Siri. I mean,
it's been fun.
Yeah,
the journey continues to be fun. It's enlightening, it's illuminating, it's filled with curiosity and entanglement and uncertainty and mystery, and it's
I have this image, Siri, and I think Ellie and Sarah Jane will probably, I don't know, but the laugh anyway, whether you agree with me or not. But it's, I just have this image where we end up sort of finishing the Zoom, and then the Sarah Jane, you know, myself and Ellie, we're going to pack a bag and we're going to come with you.
Oh yes, I'm there.
About to ask. I was just about to ask if we want to work with you, or as a client, or you know, as a fellow colleague. How do we get involved?
So much of our journey, and we've been on such a journey, haven't we, the three of us, but so much of our journey just resonates so much with what you're talking about, and this movement forward and opening up and coming home, and it's just really wonderful. to hear you talk about your work and your path forward with such excitement, and I love that.
Yeah, I need that reconnection.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we day in, day out, client work, one-to-one. We've just been talking for so long, you know, how, you know, I used to paint to reconnect, and nature, well, I'm in a yurt on a piece of land right now, you know, nature is definitely a form of connection, but I need something more. And I think a lot of us are feeling this at the moment, that work in health, that work in mental health, that work in physical health. My God, it's not just mental, you know, I feel like I'm being pulled apart. And talking to you about how you are reconnecting, I'm just like, Fleur, I'll pack a bag tomorrow. Need
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we won't be the only ones listening to this podcast that are therapists of all different forms. And so how do we do that with you? And also any sort of final words on what that looks like?
Yeah, beautiful, Ellie. Wow. Yeah. Yes to all of what you were just saying. Yes to feeling pulled apart as a therapist. You know, yes to all what you said. I really feel, yeah, I really feel the same. And where the sparkle comes from for me is psilocybin, where that extra little bit of of magic comes from is dosing myself and playing with the medicine. And I guess because it adds some lightness, you know, it's a serotonin receptor, and so it adds some lightness. And also, that's another whole conversation, because Amanita works on the GABA receptor, which actually brings like a slower break. You know, it slows me down, and allows me some level of contentment underneath the surface. So they're very different mushrooms. But I think when looking at your and Fleur and Sarah Jane's, you know, what you're doing here with the podcast, and your building community and supporting therapists, you know, to be able to have conversations and come together, I feel I'm like, yeah, I want that, you know, I want that. I think it's super, super important. Many of us are just isolated doing the work, showing up with so many clients. I'm trying to find your resource and struggling. So I really love that what you're doing here. And if I can, you know, it's lovely to be involved. I was going to say if I can be involved, but I guess I am now in this moment. With regards to working with me, I think Fleur in her introduction kind of finished on the fact that my work is, you know, embodiment and education, and I think you said empowerment. I'm not sure, but that really is. I like to educate people, not, you know, not tell them what to do, but like help with knowledge and information and experience, so that they can empower themselves to take responsibility for their well-being, and then move forward with their body's connection, relationships, and the medicine. So I don't have platforms. Just never really got around to having websites and stuff. I'm in the process of having a website, but of course we couldn't advocate for the mushrooms on a website in the UK. So the only way really I get work is through referrals. I have people who refer to me, and it would just be an introduction on email. So the best way to get hold of me is through an email address, which I can share with you. And I do have, with the microdosing, I do have a newsletter. Actually, I've started to send out. So subscribing to that newsletter is a really good idea, and I can share that link with you. I call it microdosing for wholeness, and I try and just send a random email out with sharing some of the things I'm listening to, watching, you know, leaning into. And people can kind of have an intake call with me, or just have an inquiry call with me if they're interested in doing the medicine. work with me. That is the way, yeah, people generally subscribe to my newsletter. They can reach out to me for a discovery call and see if we want to work together.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely fabulous. Well, we yes, as Sarah Jane, you say we could, keep on talking because it's just so interesting. For now, Siri, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. It has been such an interesting and fascinating conversation, and yes, we're very blessed to have had your company this morning. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Siri. I feel quite inspired, to say the least.
Yeah, thank you for taking us there and here safely. And thank you for everyone that's been listening as well. And please, again, you can comment, email us at info@handtohealth.co.uk. We'll put all of Siri's links in the bio too. And yeah, goodbye from England.
Yeah, goodbye.
Yes, goodbye. Take care.